So let's bring in Stephen Olemacher, who is a Washington reporter for the Associated Press. He, of course, led the team that counted the delegates for the AP. We have a photo of Stephen in action with his trusty calculator. Stephen, that looks like a 1985 calculator, but it must be better than that. But talk to us how you put this all together.
Well, we've been tracking the number of delegates that the presidential candidates have been winning since the primaries and caucuses started at the beginning of the year. And Trump has been very close to getting to the magic number. He was at about 1209 as of the end of the Washington state primary, and he has, as you know, he has to get to 1237. And we had heard that Trump was going to be speaking in North Dakota today, and was going to be hosting a bunch of North Dakota delegates. These delegates are unbound, which means they can support the candidate of their choice. So his goal was to have enough delegates there with him to put him over the top. So we started calling unbound delegates all across the country. We had reporters in several states making phone calls to see if they were ready to commit on the record that they were to a candidate that they were going to support. And as the morning wore on, we got closer and closer, and I called a North Dakota delegate by the name of John Tandrum. He just lives north of Fargo, and got him on his wife's cell phone. He was on his way to meet with Trump, and he said, he goes, I'd be happy to be number 1237. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm only at 1235. He goes, well, I'm not going to be ready to commit until you get to 1236. But hold on a second, I got another delegate right next to me, and he handed the phone to a state rep by the name of Ben Koppelman, who said that he was willing to confirm that he would vote for Trump. And he handed the phone back to Tandrum, and he says, are you at 1236? I said, yep. He goes, I'm your guy. I'm your guy.
All right, congratulations on nailing that down, but are you a little bit concerned that some who say they've committed may defect and go back?
Well, I'm not really so much worried about that now, because we have 5 primaries on June 7th with 303 delegates at stake. So Trump's going to have plenty of opportunity to pad his numbers. So we knew he was going to get to this number as soon as all the other candidates dropped out of the race. Yeah. And that's the other issue. Since all the other candidates dropped out of the race, there have been some protest votes against Trump in some of these primaries, but largely the voters have been rallying around him. It's very interesting how you can see a number of the establishment Republicans are still reluctant, including Speaker Ryan, to come out and endorse him. But he's still getting well over 70% of the vote, of course, now that he's the only one in the race. And it would appear that these delegates are starting to rally around him as well.
Yeah. Does this now allow Trump to fully focus before the late July convention on organizing his general election campaign and trying to unify the party, or had he pretty much already made that pivot?
I think he started to make that pivot as soon as Ted Cruz and John Kasich dropped out of the race. But now he can rest assured that he can make the pivot, because he doesn't have to worry about there being any contention at the convention as far as whether he gets the nomination. That's sewn up. He'll get the nomination. Obviously, there'll be other fights at the convention over the platform. There's probably going to be some protests outside. It's not going to be a boring convention, I don't think. Yeah. But he can certainly pivot toward the general election now.
I want to get your reaction to President Obama's remarks. Very unusual for a sitting president who is abroad to intrude upon an ongoing presidential campaign. But he said world leaders are rattled by Trump, and then he went on to say a lot of the proposals by Trump are either ignorant of world affairs or a cavalier attitude, and so on. Is that the kind of criticism from a lame duck president that really is not going to move the needle much among voters?
Well, I'm not really sure about that. I mean, I don't think it's any mystery what the president's views of Donald Trump are. And, quite frankly, any of these establishment folks, I mean, you heard a lot of establishment Republicans coming out against Trump very harshly, by the way. Remember Mitt Romney's speech. Sure. While there was still a contested primary going on, and that didn't seem to affect Trump supporters. So I'm not sure Trump supporters are the kind of people who look to Obama for leadership. So I'm not sure how much of an effect it would have.
Yeah. Stephen Olemacher, fine job in leading the team that arrived at the magic number of 1237, now 1238 for Donald Trump, clinching the nomination. And thanks for sharing your story with us. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.